I'm really here on a recruitment drive more than anything to try and get more people to join the mammal watching community. And I've been really impressed this weekend, it's my first time at the bird fair, seeing how much mammal stuff, how many mammal people are here. So really this is a 20-minute talk about mammal watching is quite easy, mammal watching is fun, come join us. But I'll talk a little bit about the history of all this first. I've been into mammals and mammal listing for as long as I can remember. This letter is something I wrote to Father Christmas when I was about 6. The sharp eye will notice one, so some interesting mammals on the list here. Hippopotamus and rhinoceros. There's some kind of worrying spelling going on, I don't know what's happening. And even more worrying lack of taxonomy. I didn't specify what species of rhinoceros, so I don't know what Father Christmas is. Even more worrying, some birds on the list. Flamingos, pelicans, I've grown out of that. But what I find amusing when I look back at this is that some of the mammals here are still the mammals I'm chasing today. There's 2 camels on this list I wanted to see when I was 7, and in a week's time I'm leaving for Mongolia with Phil Telfer to look for these in the Gobi Desert. So give me the child until he's 7 and I'll give you the mammal. Mammal watching has come a long way in the last 10 or 11 years since we started mammalwatching.com. And when I think back, it's extraordinary how much back in the early 2000s I thought I would never see, and yet we can now see it. It's largely because of the community that's grown around this site that's made these species findable and seeable. 11 years ago when I was thinking about going to China, I talked to people and they said there's no way you'll see a giant panda. We've spent years in China running tours, never seen one. And yet a few months later, a site opened up in Foping where you could see giant pandas in the wild, almost guaranteed within a week. And unfortunately that closed, but for a few years there was a place to see us. And I'm sure there'll be a place again in the future. Snow leopards. Back in 2001 I was talking to an Australian researcher who spent 3 years in Nepal working on these. He'd never seen one. And then now you can go to Ladakh and you're guaranteed in the week in winter to find a snow leopard. The whole industry's sprung up around them. Giant armadillos. The first time I went to Brazil in 2006, I saw a Polaroid pinned to a gas station wall of this huge animal crossing the road. And I was talking to the guys there and I was saying, oh, this is incredible animal, we only see once in a lifetime, so rare. But now if you go to Baías das Pedras in the Pantanal and spend time with Arno Desfieri, this is a fabulous researcher there. You'll probably see this if you spend a week. Fantastic. But it's not just the big charismatic stuff, it's some of the unknown stuff too. When I first went to the States in '92, I was given a flyer in Wyoming, I think, saying, have you seen this mammal, the black-footed ferret? It's thought to be extinct. And yet now they've been reintroduced, they've been rediscovered. Go to Route 66 in Arizona, drive on the road at night, you'll probably see a black-footed ferret if you go to Scotland. Even things like Tamaraw, until about a year ago, this is the dwarf buffalo from the Philippines. I didn't think there was anywhere to see this. So I was chatting to a friend who goes, yeah, they're easy. You go to a certain mountain in Mindoro, you climb up there in a few hours, you'll see Tamaraw when you get to the top. And sure enough, there's a place to see this now. Even things like Solenodon, which is the largest shrew species in the world. It's one of the only mammals with a venomous bite. For many, many years, everyone thought these things were virtually extinct because scientists couldn't catch them. Not possible to trap. But then the Last Survivors Project in the Dominican Republic, they discovered, well, we can't actually trap these things in cages or in box traps, but what we can do is we can send these guys out, father and son, from the village, and they'll catch them for us. They're incredible. And it's the father who masterminds the operation. He sends his poor boy out into the forest with a very big glove and runs these things down in the dry season. But within 2 hours of getting there, they caught one for us. Just a fabulous creature. Even things like a Chinese zopor, the mole rat family. I was in Tibet last year with a guy who'd spent 20 years in Tibet and never seen one of these things. Within half an hour of finding a hole, we found one by excavating the hole slightly, and the thing came to the surface. Admittedly, that's the view we had of it. It wasn't fantastic. But there are ways to see all these things, and we're discovering and we're sharing. And it's getting easier and easier, so it's a lot of fun. Even things like the beaked whales. Just this week, I can reveal a great secret I learned. Beaked whales, the Mesoplodons especially, are one of the most cryptic, mysterious species on the planet, British species. Many of them are known only from skulls and occasional sightings. Several have never been seen at sea. The only beaked whales I ever saw were in the Bay of Biscay on the Bilbao ferry that used to run, from Portsmouth to Bilbao. And I saw a couple of species one day, and I saw them with this guy, Peter Cartwright, a British birder. Last weekend I was in North Carolina on a boat, and I bumped into Peter Cartwright again, and we saw beaked whales. So clearly the only way to see a big whale, I think, is to get onto a boat with Peter. But it works for me. So when I think back to how I first started mammal watching seriously in the 1990s, there wasn't really any internet then, there were no reports. I can't even remember how we got information. I guess I spoke to people and did all the things like reading books. And you got kind of rumours about things and you had to go all the way to a country to see if they were true. And you might see a few things, but it was really hit or miss. But then when I was living in Australia, there's this explosion of stuff around the net for bird watching. And my first thought was like super exciting. You go to these sites and you go through bird watching reports. Maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 4 reports would have a list of mammals as sort of bycatchers and appendix. That was sort of interesting to get this information. But then it became really frustrating because you might have a page on seeing a snow pigeon in Ladakh, and then at the back there'd be 2 lines, oh, we saw 2 snow leopards, but no more information. So I was really frustrated and sort of envious of this. So I started mammalwatching.com in the mid-2000s. Really as a way to share the information that I learned in Australia, but also to get other information, of course. And a community was born. My own little community was born about the same time as my son and then my daughter. But really, it was the mammal watching community which was so much more important. And I can say that because when I looked at pictures of my daughter, this is true, I went back to try and find a picture of my daughter when she was a baby, and I found a lot of bats and rats around that time. The first picture, she was about 1 month. She's coming up more later. So the community's born, first a site, then a forum, a blog. And now, sort of 10, 11 years on, it's really grown into a real hub of information. We have 600 plus trip reports, 194 countries covered, more than 1,000 posts now on the forum. It's been going for about 8 years. Pioneers like Richard Webb, who's really opened up the world of big cat watching in places like Brazil for jaguars, Chile and elsewhere. Ruditha from Sri Lanka, who's really transformed mammal watching in the country. I don't think there's anywhere else on the planet where you can spend 2 weeks with Udi and see as many of the species of a certain place. People like Fiona Reid in Canada, who specialises in smaller stuff than bats, which is these fabulous trips around the place. So it's really changing. Very active groups now on Facebook. Just a few months ago, an Australian group started up, and there's 400 people already in it, and these are the real experts of Australia, sharing great information. So it's really changing quickly. And just a few days ago, I rebooted the site, fed up with the taunts of my children telling me how old-fashioned and ugly the old one was. So this is a new site. It does much of the same as the old site, but it's much easier to search, easier to comment, easier to share information. So I really hope the community will continue to grow as strong as it has. Now, many benefits for all of this, as I'm sure you all know. The more reports we have, the more knowledge there is. More knowledge means easier to mammal watch. Easier mammal watching means more mammal watchers. That means a bigger community and so on. So there's a real virtuous circle of knowledge sharing here that makes it easier for people like me to see stuff. But there's also benefits for businesses, and those ecotourism dollars must flow through to species conservation in many areas. Places like Ladakh, this whole industry has grown up around snow leopard watching now, and that's really good for the animals there, I think. And there are benefits for science and conservation. There is this growing brigade of mammal watchers travelling around the world who are finding stuff. They have the time and the resources to go to places that scientists can't go, and we're stumbling on things. This is a picture of a small-toothed palm civet in Java, and it's a slightly strange colour. So when I saw this thing, I took a picture and I thought, that's an interesting colour, and stuck it on the internet. And a few months later, I got an email from some scientists saying, Jeepers Creepers, this is the long-lost Javan palm civet. It hasn't been seen for 100 years. How on earth did you find this? And it was in a tree above the guard station in National Park. It's the first thing I saw when I got there. Not hard, but just somewhere scientists haven't been. So there are benefits, I think, for everyone with this, so it really should be promoted. So now, if you're not yet persuaded about the joys of mammal watching, here's a run through of 10 things you never knew. Now, some of these will be familiar to birders, but mammal watching is always comfortable, it's always pleasant. Here we are in Kyrgyzstan on a snow leopard hunt. It was 40 below. The diesel in the car had frozen. This is a guy defrosting it with a blowtorch. I stood well back after I took the picture. It's always safe. This is particularly a nice piece of driving from Pakistan. One of the crazy trips I did for reflection, I went there for work and I couldn't resist the thought of shooting up to the Hindu Kush to try and see markhor, even though my officer told me not to leave his lamb down in the hotel, much too dangerous. Went up, saw the markhor, had a guy with a gun with me, it was fine, beautiful place. Got back, and a week later they caught Bin Laden. And I think I pretty much drove past his house. So maybe not the best place to be at the time, it was fun. Great food, again, Kyrgyzstan, we lived off yak fat for a week. Nourishing, but a little bit boring. Great accommodation. This charming bed and breakfast on the left was in the Kalmykia stepplands in Russia. I wasn't just the first Westerner to stay there, I was the first person ever to stay there. They put out a spread of food on the first night, which was fabulous, but it stayed there for 3 days on the table. That was all we got to have, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And then bathrooms, like these particularly fine ones in Tibet, which I think nobody used, everyone preferred to use the car park. So it's, first of all, it's just as comfortable and as nice as bird watching is. And there's also beautiful surroundings. Anyone who's wading through a tropical bat cave, up to their knees in bat poo, think of ammonia, sweat dripping into your eyes, trying to take pictures of bats you're never going to be able to identify when you know how floatable that is. It was worth a try. Second, it's a chance to meet the locals. I've travelled quite a lot and I've met some wonderful naturalists around the world. People who, it really gives you confidence and faith that there's hope for species in areas where you see how passionate and knowledgeable these people are. But it's not always the case. This was the only armed car wash in the world, I think. This is in Ethiopia, where my guide stopped after spending 2 weeks telling me how dangerous the people were in this area. He proceeded to do business with every single person we saw on the roadside. These guys washed our car, the paint started bubbling because of the water from the lake they'd used, and then they pointed their guns at me after I took this picture. There was 2 in order to pay, so we left them married. Romantic. What girl couldn't resist the thought of 4 hours on top of a truck driving through the Tanzanian bush? But apparently Anna tells me it was the best evening of her life, ever. She's with me every night, start to believe. Fun for all the family. My kids, travel with me. They, my son at least, enjoys mammal watching quite a lot. He goes with me. My daughter, she's enjoying this encounter with a mama on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, but not always the case with her. Here she is on her way to look for black-footed ferrets in Arizona. Here she is on a particularly cold walk in Quebec, not seeing fishes. I still threaten her we'll go fisher watching when she misbehaves. Here she is in Tasmania. I didn't even know what we were looking for. She wasn't too happy. And in Croatia, and she finally had a breakdown after 5 days. Sorry, Katie. So more seriously now, I mean, the 5 points now, which really are, I think, going to those who don't mammal watch. Mammal watching isn't difficult. Many birders have, I think, wildlife people have an opinion that it's really hard to see mammals, but I don't think it is. It's just different. You need to go out at different times. You need to use it's ridiculous equipment like this guy here in Finland trying to swoop bats out of the air. But it's possible to see a lot of mammals. It's just a different way of doing things, going out at different time. But it's not so difficult. You might need to adjust your expectations if you're a big birder. A list of 8,000, 9,000 is right at the top. But if you've seen 500 or 1,000 mammals, you're in pretty rarefied company. So you can see a lot, but not as many, obviously. But more and more, it's becoming easier to see lots of species on a trip. Just to see, I was in Nicaragua, I was there for a week, and we saw 86 different species of mammals in 7 days, which is pretty phenomenal. A lot of those are bats and smaller things, but you can see a lot. People have said to me mammal watching is where bird watching was maybe 100 years ago. And it does feel like we're on this kind of exciting frontier of discovery. This is an oranguito in Ecuador, a species only described to science, I think, in 2013 and 2012. So, people are finding significant mammals all the time. Many of the places we go, it's frustrating, there isn't much information. The list for parks are quite poor or long. I've lost track of the times I've been on wild goose chases looking for things that aren't there. Some of the guys don't know so much, so that can be a little frustrating. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to discover stuff. Perhaps there's a lot more opportunities than there is now in the birding world. There's so much better than documented. So it's a new frontier, and it's an exciting frontier. Seventh point, and a number of people will say to me, well, what about bats and rats? Don't you have to look at all those, and aren't they boring? Well, I don't think they are boring. I think many of the smaller things are some of the most interesting things you can see. This is a Glover's piker from Tibet, which is a gorgeous creature. Who couldn't like that? ghost-faced bat from Puerto Rico. It's really distinctive, interesting bats. Spectral bats from the Neotropics, the largest bat in the Americas. These things eat mice and birds and reptiles, enormous things. There's a couple there from Nicaragua. And even larger, the naked bat from Thailand, which is the largest insect-eating non-fruit bat in the world. It's never going to win a beauty contest, but a fascinating thing to see up close. Golden-backed tree rat from rodents like that in Australia, which you can spot like still in places like the Kimberley. Just gorgeous things. But I think it's well worth people spending time looking for and not dismissing all the bats and shrews and rodents as the equivalent of LBJs. A lot of mammal watching is obviously done at night. It's different, obviously birds are at night. You're going to have to go out a lot more at night to see mammals, but it's really worth it because we have some fabulous stuff we see at night. Things like the water opossum, the yapok, so you can now see pretty easily in Nicaragua in the right place. Cacomythals, another Central American species where I've just found a site for these in Panama where they actually conveniently come to the garden of the lodge where we stay. It's beautiful things. An aardvark. This is an animal that tortured me ever since I lived in Zambia. I must have spent 15 years asking everyone who knew anything about aardvarks, where can you see an aardvark from? We don't know. Once or twice, maybe a year, we see one. And yet now there are sites like Merritt Game Ranch in South Africa. When I come back here, we're going to give a talk and we'll say now we have sites for some of these mythical creatures that we don't know how to find. Things like the akapi in the Congo, Saola in Vietnam, pygmy hippos in Sierra Leone, or even a giant pangolin in the forests of Central Africa. I'm convinced there's a site for every species in the world. It's just we don't know where all these sites are yet. But by sharing information, we sure are discovering a lot of them. So please join our small community. Please don't feel, if you have a report with mainly birds and it's not of interest to the site, don't feel you need to be super hardcore or expert to submit stuff, because none of us, well, I'm certainly not an expert. So we welcome everyone to join and get involved, because it's a small but a friendly bunch. So please send me an email. And thank you very much. I'll be around after the talk.